Hello and greetings, everyone. Nice to see you all. And this is, hey, hi. I think we're waiting for a couple of more people. Okay, here they come. Okay. So thank you so much for being here. We are very, very grateful to have you for the second roundtable panel discussion, Day 3 Virtual World Symposium. My name is Lingi Tao, Communications Director for GatherVerse, and we're very, very happy to have you here. And for this particular panel, we are going to talk about culture, the soul of virtual world. With me, I have a group of expert panelists who are going to help us demystify this interesting topic. Well, for our dear panelists, I ask you to introduce yourself and kindly be brief. And we shall start with you, Lisa. The mic is yours.
Hi, I hope you can hear me. Can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can.
Super, super. Well, my name is Lisa Gibbons. I am from Ireland. You might hear the accent. I am founder of the Metaverse Tourism Association, and I've been working in this space probably around 5 years now. I have a master's in international tourism, so I'm very interested in virtual worlds coming from the tourism and travel sector. So that's my background.
Amazing. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
My name is Daniel. I'm the founder and CEO of CyberHub. My background was actually in the technology industry, like the more traditional technology industry in San Francisco. I worked in a bunch of different tech companies. And then I, like many of us, kind of had an XR moment, and I got sucked into this space, and then that's it. You just start moving your entire life and career into this space, and that was some years ago now. And then I dove in. I became a developer. I realized it was a little too hard personally to develop multiplayer custom VR stuff, and so which is really what we're talking about with virtual worlds. And so I started working on CyberHub to make it easier for other developers to build their own custom thing. I kind of chafed at the idea that we had to only build worlds within existing platforms like VR chat, or at the time Altspace was pretty popular, etc. So that's what we've been working on.
Oh, brilliant. We're looking forward to learn more from you. Moses, you're from where? Please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Hi, Lynn. Thank you so much for the opportunity. My name is Moses. I am the current CEO and co-founder in Farm. I'm also a blockchain developer, so worked mostly in the blockchain space, either on real-world asset tokenization or on NFTs, and a little bit of experience in regards to virtual world. So that's my background, and a little bit of software engineering as well.
Welcome, Sabrina.
Hi everyone, I'm Sabrina Princessa. So I'm the founder of People's Inc. and Royal Visionary Society. So People's Inc. is a MarTech company, marketing technology. We are marketing automation software. And Royal Visionary Society is a platform that helps women founders grow in their business. And I'm from Singapore.
Welcome. We have quite a wealth of experiences here. And before we even go to our first questions, I just want us to talk a little bit briefly on culture. What is culture to you? This is what I found out from how I researched. I did take my dictionary, and this is what culture is. According to my dictionary, it's not Oxford. I don't know which dictionary is this, but it's a dictionary anyway. So it says culture is the beliefs, values, behaviors, and material objects that constitute a people's way of life. I couldn't go for a better definition for myself, but I want to hear from all of you. What is culture to you? Just briefly, and we will start from you, Sabrina, from your industry and what you've been doing. What is culture to you?
So I think culture is like what you mentioned. So I'm going to use an example like in my organization. So we are a work from anywhere kind of organization. So the culture that we're actually building is to let people actually explore, having in a way a stable job, but also exploring like other opportunities. So in our company, what we did is that we actually created a gig economy within our structure itself. allowing people, like even operational people, to be able to earn more by taking up gigs in the system itself, so that they can kind of like increase in terms of their what they bring back home. So in a way, we are actually teaching them, kind of like empowering them to make more, but also be able to manage their time more efficiently. So that's why we also use we empower them with AI tools so that they can actually do their work faster, more efficiently, so that they can also do take up the gigs to be able to kind of in a way earn more and be able to grow with the company. And that actually helps in terms of retaining our people within the company itself.
Okay, Sabrina, that's quite extensive. I'm going to come back to you on that. Moses, briefly, what is culture to you?
So I'll define that in two ways. The first way is the dictionary way, which is just generally customs, values, and beliefs around this number of people or person, and how that is used or adapts to blockchain is in regards to, especially what we do at Investor Farm, is in regards to transparency and trust. So those are the two distinct areas in where we believe defines the blockchain community in terms of the financial technology it offers compared to other players within the sector, either the banking sector or probably other cultures. But again, it also depends on what you're thinking around. Maybe if you're thinking about in the side of virtual world, to be defined differently because we have a culture to that in the blockchain space. There's a culture to that in an organization, how you run your company, the sustainability aspect, how the do's and don'ts, the rules and norms. So culture can be explained in so many different ways depending
Yes.
on the context
Yeah.
that you rely on.
Yeah, totally agree on that, Moses. Before I come to you, Daniel, I see my fellow colleague, Russell. Russell, please introduce yourself.
Hi, my name's Russell. I am the Director of Partnerships at GatherVerse. I basically do all the partnerships within the GatherVerse community, so community partnerships, sponsorships, that kind of sort of thing. And I'm also own my own company as well. I'm also an entrepreneur, and I also building a universal verification framework as well for AI at this moment in time. So that's pretty much me in a nutshell, really.
Well, welcome. So we are actually talking about culture, and everyone is defining what culture is to them. And I'm at you, Daniel, and then we come to you, Lisa. What is culture to you, Daniel?
Yeah, I'll go quick. I think culture for me really is about the customs, the habits, the routines, the foods, the phrases, and when we think about virtual worlds, we're actually thinking about to some extent mimicking real life. And so I like to think about culture in terms of real life and what happens there. And a lot of times it's about the kind of unsaid things, right? Like culture is sometimes the things that you can't read in a book. It's about the things that you have to experience, you have to live, you have to be a part of that culture to know. And you can read about it on Wikipedia. You can talk to people in that culture. You can be friends with people in that culture. You're not going to know all the little bits and bobs of the culture unless you're a part of that culture. You really have to dive in.
Yeah, definitely. And Daniel, your mic is a little bit intermittent. When you come back to you again, I hope everything will be better. Lisa, what is culture to you briefly? And then we go to you, Russell.
Yeah, I heard what Daniel said actually, and I kind of agree with him that it's hard to make culture tangible. That sometimes the culture is just the customs and traditions and the things that you've grown up with as a child, pastimes or the games that you play that we might play here in Ireland that won't be played in other parts of the world, and the way we take our tea. So I take my tea black. Some of my friends take their tea with milk and sugar. I think, there's different culture can be surround food. So culture can surround shared experiences. And I feel for me, in relation to virtual worlds, it would be a lot about the shared experiences that would bring the culture into the virtual worlds.
Oh, definitely. That's lovely. I also relate to that. I think culture for me is how we do things. It includes language, food, how we just think normally. And Rasa, what is culture to you?
Pretty much what everyone else said. I will add though, sort of like, values and stuff like that, and also society as a whole. I think society and kind of how places are, and where, what sort of things are in that location, or like you said, food, all that kind of sort of stuff. I think it's a mixture of all different things. I don't think you can just verify like sort of or justify one particular thing. But I definitely think sort of values and principles are a big sort of factor within the whole society of that nation or that demographic, etc. So yeah, I think it's a mixture really.
Definitely. And over to you, our audience. You're free. Kindly feel free to tell us what is culture to you, and how do you see that uh, intercepting with virtual words. I will start with you, Sabrina. How does culture manifest and evolve within virtual worlds? How do you see that interplay? And anyone can also chime in on this. Sabrina, the mic is yours.
Culture in terms of virtual worlds, right? I think that when it comes to virtual worlds, like for example, like festivals and all, right, you can actually kind of like experience different kinds of cultures using virtual environments where you can't really, because in a physical form, right, to be able to experience the different cultures, you actually need to be presently in that space. But with the virtual worlds itself, you can actually experience portion of that environment in a virtual place wherever you are, and allowing you to kind of like interact with different kinds of people from different kinds of culture, and kind of like get to know the different cultures, the different kinds of nations, people, and get kind of gives you a more multinational kind of feeling and understanding.
I'll just quickly jump in as well. I think there's a couple of factors to this too. Like, for example, when it comes to virtual worlds in particular, like obviously there's set sort of metaverses and set games, etc., which have their own sort of culture within that specific game or metaverse, right? So I think that's kind of one factor within this too. And also the second factor is when it comes to culture, sort of independent, like yourself individually, the fact that you can basically be whoever you want to be within the virtual world or within the virtual space, like that allows you to become whatever cultural person you want to be. So I would say those two factors also are added on top of what Sabrina was just saying. But I think they sort of play a part within this as well. So.
Russell, as I was listening to you, I think you brought in another layer that I would love to follow up on. You said you can create your own culture in the virtual worlds. Does that mean I will leave my own material culture from my own physical way of doing things, or my traditional culture, and virtual world is like an escape for me to form another culture? Is that what you mean? How do you see that interplay?
Interesting question. I think you could maybe sort of incorporate that within the metaverse that you're going into. Like if there's a certain tradition that you want to bring in within the metaverse, absolutely you can take that with you. But I think it's more allowing people to whoever they want to be as an individual, and what their own values and what their own sort of internal things that they have for them. I think that's kind of more of like of a bigger standpoint than anything. But yeah, obviously they can bring them within the virtual space that they go into, absolutely. So it just depends on who the individual and sort of like what the use case is. So
yeah,
I will add to that just a little bit, because for me, when I started going into some of these virtual spaces a few years ago, I was in one space and it was quite dead. There was no one there. It was just me going around, like walking around as my avatar and just figuring things out by myself. So I do think as people who are maybe at the forefront or here before a lot of the mass entry into the space, that we need to build some direction and set some standards and give people experiences where they can express themselves in a way that they would like to in the real world. For example, when I went into Decentraland 2 years ago, they had a festival, and straight away they had avatar wearables with mushroom hats. And I loved it. So I bought a mushroom hat, but only because I'm a forager in my real life. So I felt that that mushroom hat related to me, and I wanted to express myself or augment my real version of myself in this environment. But I do think it is up to all of us here and everyone at GatherVerse and everyone in the other metaverses that we spend time in to facilitate that and create that and inspire that by creating these wearables and these avatar costumes and these environments that allow us to augment our culture in a way that we feel fit. I created the Irish pub and the Sandbox metaverse 3 years ago, and there's technical limitations in some of these environments that are preventing us from adding culture. For example, I was told it was like a massive ordeal to add Irish music into the Irish pub, and for me that was crucial. I said, this is a critical factor when it comes to my culture. I need the music. It cannot be elevator music. It cannot be any other music except Celtic music, or else the experience is off, and then people won't be inspired to do their own thing. So I would just add there that I think it's on us or on the technical providers, these metaverse builders, I'm including myself in this, to provide environments and provide inspiration in how we express ourselves, or not ourselves, but express our culture through technology.
Sorry,
Yeah.
Sorry, can I just jump in then? And then I hand the mic to you. I'll literally be 2 seconds. I know you run out of time. Just to quickly add to that as well, I did a New Year's event. I did one of the biggest New Year's events inside of Voxels. We had over 10,000 people attend the event. We had over 7 different venues. We had DJs, live streaming, etc., right? I had over 30 different artists perform. It was crazy. The point of what you're saying about how you sort of bring that in, like the culture, we had our own sort of like, t-shirts and our own sort of theme party, etc. within this. And like how you're saying about that, we basically brought our own culture into the Voxels, with the whole party that we did. And that kind of came across the board with everybody being at our party. So Lynn, I'll hand the microphone to you. I just want to quickly add that.
Yeah. Thank you for adding that. Was it Daniel or Moses who wanted to jump in on that?
I was going to quickly jump in as well and say that it's important. This is an important reason why I think that we need to go beyond just the established platforms that exist, because they all have their limitations, and then those limitations can sometimes limit our creativity, as well as in your case, Lisa, your ability to insert culture.
Yeah, that's a very good addition. And just to also add my experience, because we all have very impeccable experience that we can all relate to. I remember I was also in Decentraland. My first metaverse experience was in Decentraland, and my colleagues, I had my friends from the African Meta Club. What we were doing was to try and bring African culture into the Decentraland. So we started with wearables. We started designing clothes that are more African traditional, because there was none. And we wanted to feel like we're still home when we are in Decentraland. Yeah, I just wanted to bring that across. And this second question, I think it relates to what we just said, but maybe I want to hear from you, Moses. In what ways can virtual environments preserve and promote diverse cultural practices?
Yeah, so we have seen many examples, likes of Mozilla Hub having virtual exhibitions of indigenous arts and cultural art practices, as well as just informing, allowing for different creators or different artists to promote their arts from very remote places. So we have Mozilla Hubs, we have VR Chat host, and some of these cultural exhibitions have gone a long way in even making the tourism sector in terms of people wanting to visit those places as a result of connecting to these different artists virtually, become even more exciting, because now you feel like you know something about it, and you probably want to see it. So I believe that the opportunity with all these apps being able to virtually exhibit this art from different artists and just showcasing it to different audience is a great way to build different cultures in the virtual world.
Yeah, definitely. I think art is one of the biggest form of culture. I think art defines the soul of what is in us. And just to go to the next question and shift gears a little bit, Russell, this goes to you. How do cultural norms and values influence the design of virtual spaces? And anyone can chime in on this as well.
I think we got to be asking ourselves really is what values do we want to bring in within the virtual space? I think that's more the bigger question, right? Than how do cultural norms and values influence the design of virtual spaces? I do obviously think that your own personal culture will adjust obviously the surroundings around you in the virtual space, especially if you combine now with AI, because AI will be able to understand you, who you are, what you are, what you're into as a person, what your interests are, etc., and it'll adjust your personal sort of experience accordingly. But when it comes to sort of like values we want to bring in within the space, though, I think that's more of a bigger question. Like, do we want for it to be sort of transparent, right? Telling us exactly what it is, etc., right, and what they're doing and why the AI is giving this a personal experience, or is it like you just it just all really just sort of depends on what values you just want to bring to the space. I think that's the main point, really.
What values do you want to bring into the space? Lisa, you mentioned something to do with design and people, designers like you. Do you agree with Russell, or do you have a different view?
No, I would agree with Russell here. I think it's up to us to kind of decide what values we want to bring. I do see, like, for me, there's a natural sense of community when you arrive in virtual spaces, or more a borderless kind of global outlook. And I like that value. I like those values already. And I think they're organically there. People who are going to virtual spaces or even coming on to virtual discussions like this, we like communicating cross borders. We like it being, a community feel. We like it to be open. We like to be creative. So there's probably natural values that we will bring in, but I do think we probably need to decide a few more, and make sure that we don't have any or kind of limit the negative negativity that can come across.
Definitely. And speaking of cross-cultural, cross-international relations, I'm coming to you, Sabrina. What role do you think virtual worlds play in facilitating cross-cultural exchanges and understanding? You are in Singapore. Asia is a very rich country in culture. I'm in Africa. We have diverse culture, and so many people who are listening and watching from us have a lot of culture, and we want to have that exchange. What do you believe? Please share your thoughts on this topic as well.
Okay, I think like in Asia itself, yes, there is different diverse culture, especially in Singapore, right? We are a multi-national country, so we have different races that are in Singapore, and that actually gives us a very diverse views on different things, perspectives, even languages. I think like virtual worlds are like like modern Silk Road, for the lack of better words. They kind of like break down that geographic barrier, allowing people to really like engage with the different cultures that they never encountered otherwise. So in a way, like Singapore is kind of like that as well, where we have like all the different types of people there, being able to engage one another, we have people from the States, or, from Australia, from China, Malaysia, and whether through like, global events like this or collaborative spaces, these environments kind of like encourages like learning, sharing, and understanding to a very whole new level. Yeah.
Yeah, I do agree with that, and I relatably, I want to share relatably on that because I'm in a country where we have over 49 tribes, over 5 million people, over not 5 million. I think over 6 million people who share 49 different languages. This is Kenya alone. And what virtual spaces do for us is to help us understand each other. And sometimes we make jokes about each other culture, but again, it makes us more united. And I really do agree on that. Daniel, I see you leaning in on this. Do you want to add something to this?
Yeah, I want to say that like I really think that we achieved globally kind of a really interesting moment with Zoom, and then later with the pandemic. That already kind of created even this now where we're here. We're all in different parts of the world. We all have different ethnic and cultural backgrounds, and this helps. But when you go into these virtual worlds, it takes it to the next level because it really gives you that actual bodily spatial presence in that world, especially if it's in virtual reality. And you get a lot of the extra things. Right now, you guys are only seeing about, a third of my body. You're seeing some hand movements, and I'm seeing myself, which is weird. And then in VR, like we're there, we're present, we hear people on the left, the right, we speak, we have an actual bodily presence, and it really does bring us all together in this kind of really interesting global place. And one of the things I've told people a lot is that VR may not be as good as in person in some regards. It's about 98% as good as it is in person in most regards, but it has two added benefits. One, it's that it can take us to fantastical places. We can go into these fantastical, mystical, crazy worlds. And number two, we can do it from all over the world in one shared place with generally minimal latency, which is really amazing.
Yeah, and I just want to just put a point to that. And, I don't know who is the creator here. I see a lot of you creating a lot of things, but I'm not sure who's the best creator to answer this. And I think, Daniel, you'll also dominate on this. How can creators ensure cultural sensitivity and avoid appropriation in virtual environments? And anyone can chime in because everyone here is a creator in their own way. Daniel, please, and then we can go to you, Moses, and Lisa as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think for anybody that's really interested in this space, I encourage you guys to really start diving in on creation. If you're super ambitious, download Unity and dive into Unity. If you're a lot less ambitious, there's plenty of options out there for you to really start getting your feet wet, from a bunch of different metaverse platforms, spatial.io, to things like Fortnite Creator and stuff like that. There's a lot of options at all skill levels of how good you are at 3D design or actual literal coding.
Moses, from a developer point of view, how do you see this coming to play?
I think it's very important to involve the different culture representatives, just to ensure there is maintenance of both authenticity and just respect certain values when designing. So for developers, it's normally so important to work with different people and just to ensure that they're educated on the different practices involved in creating different cultures, so that they realize the importance of the different cultures you're creating within the virtual world.
Very important to have everyone on board when you're creating these things. Lisa, you're leaning into this. Please add something to that.
Yeah, it would be the same for me. I would say it's important to involve communities where they are, from where they are, when they're developing, or when you're looking at developing a metaverse hub or a virtual hub for a destination or for a culture in itself. And I think that involves a lot of collaboration and liaison between the studios and the likes of CyberHub here and Daniel, who are creating the technology and the spaces and maybe the blank canvas for the creators to come in and put their footprint on that environment and to give the feedback required, what's needed. And that probably hasn't happened as much as it should have up to now. But these conversations are happening, and I think that the platforms themselves are reaching back out and providing, a way of communicating directly with them, and that'll be very important.
Lisa, you mentioned something very important. We are not yet there. We haven't seen that level of collaboration. Yes, there's the talks, but are we really walking the talk, which leads me to a follow-up question on you, Russell. How do you walk the talk on collaboration? We keep on saying collaboration with the communities, but we have to understand communities diverse from all over the world. How do we bring all these community from all over the world in creating very inclusive and cultural sensitive virtual environments?
I think there needs to be sort of like a universal unity, right? I think there's a multiple ways in which you can do that. I mean, you can do that through events, right? In particular, where you can bring all different communities together to specific events. That's basically what we did when we used to do our events, a few years ago in Voxels. Another way to do it is also by sort of like your values, right, and your principles, and aligning sort of like your goals together, and kind of collaborating that way on sort of fixed goals and milestones which you can reach towards together. I think there's a few ways in which you can do it. It's a question really of what are the ways in which you want to sort of put them together in order to bring that coalition together of multiple people. I think that's more really of the question, really, and kind of like, why would people want to be a part of that collaboration rather than saying, hey, join my thing, right? So I think that's more of a that's my point of view anyway.
Yeah, and it's very important. Do the people want to be part of it? I never thought of that until you raised that. Do the people want to be part of building it? We might be forcing things, we're presenting virtual worlds that people don't want to be part of. And thanks for bringing that.
And also, sorry, just to add as well. And also, you got to think as well. I know this might sound a bit sort of vague or whatever, but people are also selfish, right? So they're going to have their personal interests involved in this as well, and say, hey, what's in this for me? I know that sounds very sort of shallow, but that's the truth. And if you can incorporate that as in they have a win out of this too, and also being a part of this as well, and getting like their benefits out of this too, then it's a win-win for both sides. Everyone collaborates and wins, collaborates towards a specific goal, and then also they get sort of like their selfish needs that as well. So it's a win-win for both sides. So anyway, that's why I say it.
Yeah, it's a win-win. And I think this is where I learned from us, GatherVerse, where we bring people from all over the world and they get to share and express, and also they get to network with each other. I want to come to you, Sabrina. And I want to bring in the AI aspect to this question. In what ways can virtual worlds become platforms for cultural expression and creativity, considering the rise of AI, and AI is disrupting the creative economy as well? And anyone can chime in on this as well.
I think like the virtual worlds are like digital canvases. So it's like perfect for painting, strokes of cultural creativity, whether it is like designing your avatar that reflects like your personal heritage, or creating spaces inspired by real world landscapes. These platforms really let people like celebrate and express who they are without limitations. So like in Royal Visionary Society, right, we created a space where women can actually share not just on their business problems, but also like could be relationship problems, or their mental problems, or just everyday problems. And through all these conversations, we actually we put it with the our Serafina AI, which is like our community manager. And this AI itself kind of like it's forged by kind of like my digital twin, but at the same time also, in response to the community itself, like how they would want, how they would like their community to become. And, this tool also is available for like the community to create their own version of their digital twins.
Wonderful. I still love the concept of Serafina. Sabrina has been here quite a number of times, and she talks about her AI or her virtual team called Serafina. You can connect with her to learn more. Moses, do you want to chime in on this, or Daniel?
I mean, yeah, I think there's also so I'm also looking at this from an events point of view. Like I want to go back to sort of like the example we kind of gave earlier, which was maybe not the New Year, but like, for example, we did a St. Patrick's Day, right? And St. Patrick's, it's all about Irish. It's all about, dressing up green, etc., etc. And I think like in the like the ways in which you can kind of sort of culturally sort of express that and the creativity within that, like all the sort of intimate details you put down, all the way down to sort of like the green leaf itself, right, for St. Patrick's Day. I think that's so important, because if you can get down to the minor details and make it look and feel the exact way in which that culture would feel like in Ireland, for example, then they get to experience that. They get to kind of go into that world and be able to be a part of that. Including potentially having like an Irish AI, for example, right? I mean, wouldn't that be cool, right? So going around going, hey, I'm from Ireland, you know? So yeah, I think that's also kind of another way in which you can kind of do that, kind of going through different events, people get experience in those events and being able to do that. So.
Yeah, indeed. Daniel, and then Moses, maybe you can chime in too.
Yeah, I think it's important to keep in mind that these virtual worlds are essentially platforms for ultimate creativity. And so one of the things that I usually tell people as they're diving into this and they're starting to realize like the extent of what they can or can't build is I tell them all the time, the real estate in VR is free. Like you can make it as big as you want, you can make it as tall as you want. You have no material costs. Don't think about, like, you can make the building as tall as you want. You don't have to think about the steel cost. There's no cost to the steel. It's all pixels, right? And so I think it's a platform for us to have maximum creativity and therefore maximum cultural creativity. It comes down to really time investment. And that's one of the things that's really interesting. I'm Jewish. My father-in-law is a rabbi. And he's like, we really need to get people in here and start doing, minyan every morning in VR. I'm like, that, honestly, that sounds fantastic, but somebody has to step up and build it. And so if the Jewish community wants to do that, you have to step up and build it. Personally, I don't care enough about Minion to build it myself. I'm happy to build other things, but not that in particular. And so it's like, it's also important, I would say, that these virtual worlds are an opportunity for us to do whatever we want. But each community, each culture that wants to do something in it has to step up and do it. And so far, we've seen a lot of gamer culture, a lot of nerd culture. We've also seen a lot of furry culture, which is really kind of fun and cool. I've encouraged you to explore that a little bit. But each culture on planet Earth can jump in and do whatever they want, and nobody's stopping you. Like, nobody's stopping you. All these platforms are open to maximum creativity to dive in.
Yeah. And Moses told me, I see you're burning to add something to this. Please tell us what you have in mind. Tell us.
Yeah, so maybe just to add on AI, I feel like AI and virtual reality can help us democratize the virtual world. So we could have things like AI powered avatars helping create conversational abilities and with languages that would probably be endangered and promoting their use. And now with blockchain and NFTs, we even have more control of cultures and the creators having more control over their cultures and how their virtual worlds are shared as well. So I believe with other technologies, we're able to not just only have control, but even just make it even much more better in terms of experience.
Indeed. I think, Lisa, you want to jump in on this. I want to hear every perspective. Please, Lisa, go ahead.
Yeah, I suppose for me, I love what Daniel was saying about no limits, just no limits at all. And then breaking down language barriers is really powerful as well. And for me, being able to express yourself in a different way without limitations is really powerful, and it has to be minded. But also, we still need that guidance. I do think we do need some leadership, like Daniel was saying. We need the Jewish community to create their environment. We need the Irish community to create their environment, the Spanish community to create their environment. So that's when we'll see how creative cultures can be. But also from the Metaverse Tourism Association's point of view, we think about everything in terms of tourism. And a lot of times when we think as a tourist, we think in terms of escaping. So it's not like creating my Irish pub for my Irish family who go to Irish pubs all the time, who know Ireland quite well. It's for going somewhere where I've never been before, maybe never will get to if I don't, have the economic capacity to get to it. So maybe Kenya, I want to go on a safari. Who knows if I'll ever get to go on a safari? Let me experience that virtually, and the Great Wall of China, I would love to go there. I don't know when I get there because I don't really like flying that much. So let me go there. So I think in these I would like to see the technology being used to create those experiences that we already have familiarity with, but we may not feel that they're tangible to us, but they could be in a virtual sense. So that would be my 2 cents on that.
Yeah, I love that. And I relate to you, Lisa, and I also welcome you to Kenya. Please make sure you fly here. You don't have to use a virtual world. And just to shift gears here, yesterday we had a very crucial roundtable. I believe Russell was there, and it was all about identities. But I want to shift it to more of the cultural side of things. How do virtual environments impact the development and transformation of cultural identities? Russell, I want to hear your view first.
Oh God, you've thrown me the hard question. Also, by the way, I want to go to the Irish pub. I've never been to Irish pub before, so I definitely want to try that.
Come on over.
Well, you're only like a flight away, so it's fine. So how do virtual environments? It's an interesting question because how do virtual environments impact the development and transformation of cultural identities? The thing is, it's more the other way around, right? It's more the individual and the identity, which is really creating the cultural environment. I would say it's the other way around, really, more than anything. But I guess if I took, like, for example, my event as an example, right, where everyone joined in, becoming a part of, for example, the St. Patrick's Day, it can have, knock-on effects, right? It can have, people can sort of incorporate those values and those kind of principles, etc., for that one night, because everyone's, raving and having a party and stuff. So everyone wants to join in, right? Everyone wants to be happy. Everyone wants to have that feel-good emotion, etc. So people are going to be a part of that. So it can impact, from an environment point of view, it can impact people. But I also think from the other point of view as well, like the identity of the individual and the person can also impact the environment itself in which they're creating and which we've all just expressed and shared on this panel. So I think it's more of a two-way question rather than a one-way question. And I really feel that, the environment can change your values. It's kind of like the old saying is like you're the person who you hang out with, like the five sort of people you hang out with, right? It's kind of the same thing. It's just as long as you kind of go around the environments you want to go in, right, and the cultural experiences that you want to experience, then I think that's really like the more important thing. So yeah, that's my 2 cents, I guess.
Yeah, and I do agree with you. It's a two-way thing. I remember this is something Chris mentions that technology. Is it technology? I'm not sure, but he can correct me. Just behind the time. Technology doesn't make people; it's people who make technology. Or something of this sort.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, he said that to me as well. Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah. And Daniel, I see you leaning into this, and I want to hear your perspective of this. What do you...
Yeah, I'm happy to jump in here a little bit and get kind of a little bit philosophical, I think, and kind of take this a little bit sci-fi. Right now, we're kind of at the very, very beginnings of this, but you can imagine as we get deeper and deeper into this, it will be more over, all encompassing. And then we start to really have to wrestle with a little bit more of this question. So you can see this question being a little bit early right now, but we're already starting to see a little bit. I alluded to being Jewish a little bit before, and I don't keep kosher, so it doesn't matter too much. But what happens if you eat, pork in the Matrix? Right? Is it a sin to eat pork in the Matrix? And this is something that rabbis are going to have to wrestle with in the near future. They're going to say, and there's a lot of sci-fi books that talk about this. And I think you're also starting to see in the LGBTQ community a lot of interaction with this. It allows people to really show themselves as they maybe truly are, or maybe show a different side of themselves as they truly are. And so I think that it's a really interesting question to wrestle with, especially over time, as the virtual worlds become more immersive and as we can dive into them even deeper into potentially crazy things like, brain injection and things like that, where we're like fully there, kind of Matrix style. Then it gets really, really interesting.
Yeah.
Can I just comment on that as well, because I wrote about the three faces theory. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it's like you've one face that you use for your friends, you've one face that you use for work, and you've one that you don't show anyone. That's probably your true self, and the way you want to really express yourself, and like wear your mushroom hat and stuff. And I feel like that in virtual spaces, it does give you, like Daniel was just saying, it does give you another way of adding another layer onto your existing identity. So you
potentially
might
a
have
fourth face.
a fourth face, exactly. It's a fourth face. So I definitely advise having a look at the three faces theory and then adding a fourth face for where we're going, and maybe that could be an expansion on this discussion or this question in particular.
Yeah, and that brings home the concept of virtual world is just an extension of who we are. The three faces that we are, and then we have now this fourth face that extends who we are. And Sabrina, let me just come to you. What challenges arise in integrating traditional cultural elements into modern virtual worlds? And I also want to hear from you, Moses.
I think the biggest challenge here is kind of like striking the balance between staying true to the roots and making it relevant to modern audiences. I think it's easy to oversimplify or misinterpret traditions. So creators need to kind of like respect the depth of those elements while still making them accessible and engaging. Yeah. So this would it's really about the balance and the authenticity, with the modern relevance.
Yeah, I totally agree. The balance. Moses, kindly.
For me, I'd say it's around ensuring there's accuracy between the traditional culture, transforming the traditional culture to digital formats, and one of the instances of this was with a game called Ghosts of Tsushima. It was a Japanese game, and they were trying to bring in the samurai culture, but there were issues with the accuracies and modernization of certain elements. So there's really a thin line between balancing that, and again, this builds back to what Russell said in terms of other people's interests as well, being part of the entire building process. So most challenges would come in with just trying to take the traditional culture into the digital format and not really talking to the representatives and having those details as clear as possible so that we can see an extension of who we are in the virtual world.
Yeah, totally agree with that indeed. And I'm going to shift to our final question, and I want to hear from each and every one of you. And I will start with you, Lisa. How can virtual communities support the preservation of indigenous languages and traditions?
It's a lovely question to finish on, actually, and I think we're very precious of the Irish language here in Ireland because it's been in decline, but it's now rising again. So I think there's a renewed interest in endangered languages and in languages in general, and I like the shared aspect. So if we can communicate through AI and using AI tools with people who we don't have a shared language with, then that becomes very interesting. How do we preserve it? It again goes back to the point I made at the beginning, is I do think we need to build those environments, those games within the metaverse or within the virtual worlds, whether it be quests, whether it be new buildings, whether it be, language, AI language agents that are hand-holding us along and bringing us along. And I see it as a transition from, we use Duolingo now as one of the apps, that we learn our languages on. I do think there will be some ways of learning languages within virtual environments in the near future as well. There probably are now, actually. So it's up to us to build them. And being from Ireland, I should be building the Irish version or helping that cause. And I think everyone has that kind of role to play as we build out these virtual environments.
Yeah, it's a collective responsibility. It's up to us to build. Russell, I want to hear from you.
I mean, I'll definitely go to the Irish pub if you do build the Irish place out, that's for sure. But yeah, a kind of supporting the virtual communities, like preserving, I think it is part Lisa's points, but I also think it's part about collaboration too. I really think it is important that people do collaborate. And also, I also, something we haven't really like spoken about either is kind of the accessibility point, right, too, as well. I think that's another important part too. With these, the devices, for example, Miller's glasses and stuff like that, right? I still think they've got a long way to go from accessibility standpoint. And I also think that can help preserve the endangered languages as well. Because if you can wear, a pair of glasses, and I can go to Ireland, for example, and speak to Lisa, and she can speak in Irish, and then my AI glasses can automatically translate that to English. I know exactly what she's saying. So I think that's part of it too. But I think also the part in which Lisa is saying as well, I think that's also important as well, and also collaboration, 100%.
Yeah, indeed. Accessibility, all the accessibility. Sabrina, please be brief.
So as you can tell, I'm Chinese, right? But I can't really speak Mandarin. So the thing here is that, like through this like virtual space itself, like AI, I'm actually starting to be able to pick up the language because, as interacting with more people from like China, I have to kind of like use the translation tools to be able to understand like what you guys are saying about the glasses and, being able to hear it in English. So while I'm actually doing that, I'm kind of also learning the language. And I think in terms of like tradition wise, right? Just imagine like there are certain ancient Chinese traditions that can no longer be done in the physical space right now. But these traditions can actually be recreated in virtual spaces. So that actually kind of like preserves that tradition, even though it's not in physical form, but at least virtually, right? Whether you're using, through your screen or the VR, you can actually re-experience that environment. So I think that, like this virtual communities and, spaces can really support in that preservation.
Wonderful expressions. Moses and Daniel, please be brief to close off.
Yeah, so mine would be maybe in regards to helping preserve the endangered languages, and we've seen Alphabet's project working with virtual reality developers right now to create virtual museums for people to be able to learn and explore these endangered languages, and also to just help preserve traditions for the future generations to come. So I think it's really important for us to understand how best to do this for the different languages from around the world, and to ensure that tradition is sustainable.
And thank you. Daniel?
Yeah, very briefly, I'll close it out with just reiterating what I said before, which is that virtual communities are an opportunity for each real world community to build what they want to build. And if they value it and they want to preserve it, it's an opportunity. And so I encourage anyone who wants to promote or preserve an existing culture to dive in.
Thank you. These were powerful remarks, and I enjoyed every session of this. And we could go on, but time is just not on our side. Thank you so much for the expressions. We look forward to having you once again, and our gather as well. Our dear audience, please feel free to connect with these amazing panelists. Over to you, Chris. Bye.